Sunday's game against Nottingham Forest this coming weekend is going to be a bit of a strange occasion. There's a lot to play for, yet there isn't, if that makes sense. With this season getting that bit closer to the finish line, I think what will be on most West Ham fans' minds will be to bid farewell to four players who have helped to make history at the club. Now, I'm sure we all have fond memories, different memories of Danny Ings, Vladimir, Coufal, Fabianski, and Aaron Cresswell. But for me, the everlasting memory happened in Frankfurt on the night of the Europa League semi-final second leg, when at the end of the game, Vladimir Coufal applauded the West Ham fans in the away end. And that was with a background of a whole load of Eintracht Frankfurt fans marauding towards him. I was lucky to be there that night. The sadness of us going out in the way that we did, but watching this one player who was not going to be stopped for thanking the away fans who travelled all the way to Germany to support the team, was a sight to behold. With the Frankfurt fans literally just, a few feet away from him when they invaded the pitch at the end of the game, Coufal just stood his ground in front of us fans and took in the moment and just focused on applauding us. I think he said something like, I wasn't worried about being attacked by the fans. If they did, it would have been their problem, not mine, or something to that effect. He didn't flinch. He didn't flinch a muscle. He just stood there and he respected the fans. And to be quite honest with you, that night, the West Ham fans gained a lot of respect for Vladimir Coufal if he hadn't already earned it before that particular moment. When Coufal signed for the club back in October 2020 for a mere, 4 million, 5 million pounds, it was on the back of a recommendation made to David Moyes by Coufal's close friend, Thomas Soucek. Now, I don't think many West Ham fans had much of an idea what we were expecting, what we were going to get, and perhaps our expectations weren't really that high. But over the 5 years that he's been at West Ham United, Coufal has rarely, if ever, let West Ham United down. 173 appearances with 20 assists. All West Ham fans wanted for Coufal and still would love is to see him score one goal. He's so many near misses over the 5 years that he's been with us. But wouldn't it be nice if he went out with scoring a goal? For Danny Ings, the memories of West Ham will not be quite the same, unfortunately. It's not his fault that the player has been plagued by injuries and that we hadn't really seen the best of him. His best was well before he arrived at West Ham United. Well, that was David Sullivan's fault for being stupid enough to sign a player in a panic when we were having a bad spell in the league. But then Sullivan can't help himself but to get involved in transfer business that after all these years, he still knows very little about. Signing players is definitely not his strong point, but we still bid Danny Ings farewell and thank you. In the 69 appearances that he's made for West Ham United, he's scored just 5 goals and he's assisted in 5 over a period of 2.5 years. Now, could another team take a punt on Danny Ings? It's possible. You might see him drop to the Championship maybe, or maybe, just maybe, a team that's just been promoted might be interested in taking him on. He played at Burnley, maybe as a backup. They might be tempted to ask him to go there. As for Lucas Fabianski, I've not always been his biggest fan, but over a 7-year period, he became a steady, solid goalkeeper for us. He came in at a time when our goalie situation was in a state of flux. Adrian had struggled to hold his place. That was mainly down to the coach at the time. And, of course, Joe Hart was an unmitigated disaster. Now, we signed Danny Ings from Swansea for around £7 million. And let's be really frank, not many fans were that enamoured with signing a player from that side. However, 215 appearances under his belt, The only thing against Fabianski at this moment in time is age. Had he been even a couple of years younger, I don't think we'd be looking at moving him on at any time soon. And then, of course, there's Aaron Cresswell. I don't know how many of you have seen the short farewell video he recorded that went out on the official West Ham website on Thursday. On Friday, sorry. He was in tears, and I won't lie, it set me off too. What a player he's been for West Ham United over 11 years. We paid a mere, £4 million for him way back in 2014. 367 appearances, 37 goal assists, and 11 goals. Most of them sweetly struck with that left foot of his. It actually amazes me that it's amazing that I thought he scored more. I didn't realize it was only 11 goals. For some reason, I kept having in my head a whole load of goals being smashed in by Cresswell. It would be no surprise if Cresswell was to captain the team against Nottingham Forest on Sunday. And it will be no surprise to me if at least maybe 2 or 3 of these players who are departing were in the starting lineup. And yes, let's not forget there's actually a game on Sunday with opponents who really do have something to play for. This isn't a testimonial by any stretch of the imagination. For West Ham, it's all about maintaining the momentum from last week's win against Man United. For Nottingham Forest, it's way more than that. With 2 games remaining in the league, Forest can still qualify for Europe, although, to be honest, most teams above them need to start losing the last couple of games in order for Forest to achieve that. Having said that, Forest have had a phenomenal season compared to the previous season when they finished 17th in the league. And many pundits at the beginning of this season were pointing at Forest as potential favourites to be relegated. But Greek owner Evangelos Marinakis has pumped a substantial amount of money into the club since buying it, with the aim that they would be in Europe within 5 years. And it looks like he's going to realise his dream. And he has almost certainly achieved this. However, it's not been without its difficulties. In 2023, Forest were charged by the Premier League for being in breach of PSR rules and were subsequently deducted points, which almost saw them being relegated. But the club got through this and have grown from strength to strength this season. Back at the end of April, when Forest were looking good for a Champions League place, Marinakis relinquished control or influenced over the day-to-day running of the club as a temporary measure to avoid any conflict of interest between the 2 clubs he owns, Nottingham Forest and Greek side Olympiakos. Because if they were both to qualify for the same European competition, he's got to demonstrate that he's not got control over one of the 2 clubs. But now this gesture maybe didn't really need to happen for Forest, because if they can't get the wins to get themselves back in contention for a Champions League spot, then they'll settle. They'll settle for a European place, either in the Europa League or the Europa Conference League. Listen, there's no harm in winning Europa Conference League. I can tell you that. So there's a lot riding on this game against West Ham United for Nottingham Forest this coming Sunday. A win will put them on 65 points, but still not quite in Champions League position. They still have to rely, as I've said, on teams above them to slip up, which will mean that there'll be even more to play for in the final game of the season the following weekend. When we travelled back up there in November to Forest, we were well and truly beaten 3-0. However, that was under the Lopetegui era, and Potter has, at the very least, he's tightened up our defence a little since then. Santos' success this season has been pretty much straightforward when it comes to tactics. Not a lot of ball possession. His team, he hits teams on the counter-attack, uses pace down the flanks, and they use the strengths of target man, Chris Wood. Job done. Look, I'm oversimplifying all this, but to be fair, that is more or less what Santo has done all season. And it's been ever so effective. And I, for one, am not knocking it at all. However, most recently, the results have been a bit of a mixed bag. The draw at home last weekend, the 2-2 draw, saw Marinakis coming onto the pitch to what seemed to be confronting manager Nuno Espirito Santo. It was later explained that the heated arguments was really over the fact that Santo had kept Taiwo Awoniyi on the pitch after he collided with the goal frame. Now, since then, we've heard that Awoniyi has had to have surgery. He had to be put in a coma in order to have abdominal surgery. But from what we understand, he's recovering well. But Awoniyi is not going to be the only player that's going to be likely to be missing from the lineup this coming Sunday against West Ham. The excellent young Brazilian centre-back, Murillo, is still likely to be missing. And both Callum Hudson-Odoi and Eric da Silva Moreira will both face late fitness tests to determine whether they'll be fit. But even if these players are missing, to be quite honest with you, they've got still plenty of talent within their team. Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood, all capable of inflicting damage to West Ham's defence. Their team, it's got pace, something that we sorely lack. It's got pace, it's got strength, and we're going to have to stop them playing on the counter-attack if we want to get something out of this game. So what about West Ham? What team is Potter going to put out on Sunday? Look, in one way, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he put out the same team that started against Man United last weekend. Meaning that out of the 4 players that are leaving, Coufal and Cresswell will be in the starting lineup with Fabianski and I would say Ings rather than Ferguson being in the on the subs bench. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts with exactly the same team. We played well last weekend, and I know people are going on about it was a poor Man United team, but we've been a poor West Ham United team all season as well. So we're level there. And winning away from home and winning at Man United, Old Trafford, since, 2007 or whatever it was, is no mean feat. Now, I think maybe the only change that might possibly happen in the lineup could be Paquetá coming in for Guido Rodriguez. But that would be a little bit unfair on Rodriguez because I think he was quite pivotal to the way we played last week. He started a bit shaky, but he settled down and he played really, really well. I would like to think that maybe later on in the game, we might see a sign of Danny Ings, maybe at the tail end of the game to give him a few minutes. But I just wondering with regards to with regards to Fabianski, whether Fabianski and Areola share a half each in order for Fabianski to be able to bid farewell as well. So my lineup, if there's any change at all for this weekend's game, it will probably just be one in the starting lineup where Paquetá might just come in for Rodriguez. But let's see. Now, in terms of, like I said, what it's going to mean, we've been told to be in our seats by 2:00, 15 minutes before kickoff, because undoubtedly there's going to be some kind of celebration to say farewell to these players. I'm sure there will be the team will walk around and do a lap of honor for the season, given it's our last game of the season at home. But we've been asked to get to the stadium 15 minutes before, be ready 15 minutes before in order to bid farewell to these players. Look, it's going to be quite emotional. Players like Cresswell, Fabianski, when I say they all made history, they did. They were all part of the squad that helped us to win the Europa Conference League in 2023. Those 4 players were there, and they played their role throughout that competition. So we will be bidding farewell, but we've still got a game to play. So I'm going to do my prediction. I think we're going to win 2-1, and I think Vladimir Coufal will get his goal. And I think Aaron Cresswell will get a storming free kick goal as well. Look at me. I'm always full of confidence, aren't I? I'm always looking on the positive side. Let's hope. Look, I just want us to put in a good performance. I want those players to put in a good performance and feel proud of, having the final game at West Ham United with their heads held high. Thank you for watching and listening. Tell me what you think. What do you think the lineup's going to be? What do you think the score's going to be? And if first time you're watching this channel, the West Ham Boys, please consider becoming a subscriber if you've enjoyed the video. But at the very least, please do hit the like button on your way out of the video. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all soon.